Another says goodbye. One that promises I'm giving you my heart. I've seen a smile convey I love you. I'm proud of who you are. And one that keeps us close when we're apart. Maybe at the top I'm thinking we can have conversations that end with let's agree. We may be a little closer than we think to finding our way home finding our way to harmony, to the beauty and the joy of harmony.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy James. Another great job with our world anthem. Thank you so much for joining us today. Super psyched to see you. I know it's been 2 weeks since we last met. Also, Nicolae Sipala is on with us today from Moldova. Nicolae, how are you feeling today?
Thanks God, very good. I'm very happy to meet everybody globally.
Yes, Nicolae, would you lead us in an invocation, please?
Okay, please join my prayer. Dear Heavenly Parent, we are so happy to meet you here. We are few people from different countries and continents, and we unite together. We was calling by you to this peace building meeting, and we are so happy to be this Rotary family that are working so hard for peace. Dear Heavenly Parent, there is many challenges around, but we know that you are leading us. And I pray for everyone who meet here, who came to this meeting, and also to those who whom we are responsible from our organizations, because we are leading our families, our organizations. So we are touching the world with your will that you give to us. Dear Heavenly Parent, please lead us and give wisdom how we could communicate, cooperate. And I bring this short report. My name is Nicolae Kirpala, Sendabel's family. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nicolae. Always a fantastic non-denominational prayer from our international chaplain, and a real Zion of peace, hosting many peace events all over the world. And his updates every day are just fascinating. I would like to also ask Dr. Pauline, our president-elect, to give us a greeting. She will be taking over this club, and we're very proud of her. Dr. Pauline Crawford is coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. We have several guests on today. I noticed Jonathan Cummings is here from New York. He is exploring Rotary clubs, which is pretty popular. Dr. Pauline, please take it away with your greeting. Oh, we couldn't hear you there, Pauline. I don't know if your microphone wasn't on. Maybe have to sign out and sign back in, possibly. Sounds like she can hear me. We'll switch then to the foundation today, and come back to you, Pauline, to Rotary Foundation, Dr. Mike down in Florida, by Legoland, Dr. Mike. I know we have a Polio Day coming up, International Polio Day. We're all going to be on for the UN events being hosted with Rotary. I'm going to Charlotte. Dr. Mike, your message about the foundation.
Exactly. Thank you, Martin. Speaking in the foundation, as you say, we have National Polio Day coming up. You can either participate there in North Carolina or find one of the other Rotary clubs that are sponsoring events In addition to that, one important note, people should start to receive emails about 2 important dates that fall within the month of polio. And also recognizing that Martin brought up a very good point when you do donate through Rotary.org to make sure that you log in. And as you look at the questionnaire, because I went through it yesterday, it asks you what club and where are you located at, so that the club does get credit for donating during the Polio Foundation drive. So please take the opportunity to look at that. And again, when donating to Rotary.org, make sure you do log in and follow the proper steps so that we can ensure that our club receives the recognition that is due, not only by individual but as a club as a whole. So thank you. Oh, one other thing quickly, I did send out through, as they say, P-mail to all individuals of considering on forming a foundation within the club. We can talk individually by that on how we might organize, but that's looking down the road. So big month of the drive for the foundation and polio, because we are making fabulous strides, super fabulous. As a matter of fact, there's an additional vaccine that has come out. I don't know if anybody read in the thread, that's supposed to assist us even more in tackling polio. So that would be the big news in front of us. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And I saw the reports. I shared them with everybody in WhatsApp today before we introduce our guest speaker, Sean Chan. I also have his slides from British Columbia up in Canada in case we have a need for me to bring up his slides. Sometimes it's easier, but I wanted to mention, Mike, on the reports today, I noticed we're starting to come up on the boards finally for donations and money and people who are donating monthly. So we're starting to see that data, which is actually good, even though it's small and babified and infantile. Looking at some other longevity clubs who have been around for 60 years, they're not on the board at all at zero. So even, myself, I'm only giving $10 a month from now until the end of time. There's other ways to give to the foundation if you're so inclined. But Mike is exactly right. You want to log into Rotary.org. You want to then click My Rotary at the top, and you then at that time want to sign in with your login and password. If you've never signed in before to Rotary.org, you would want to just simply create an account, okay, and do a login and a password, and then donate to anything in life that is important to you. There's many different things: humanitarian, the environment, women and girls. There's the polio plus society you can join. Many different ways to give. The point is, when you do that, you ratchet up and log in, and not only do you credit our district and you credit our club and you credit yourself towards a Paul Harris fellowship or towards a Polio Plus Society membership, even if you're only giving $5 that day, okay, that's your yearly donation, it gets registered and everybody gets credit for it. You make our governor look good, you make our club look good, you get credit for it. So make sure you log in and sign in. You'll see your name up there on the top right will appear once you're logged in, okay, at Rotary.org. So I turned on the transcription also here so that we can kind of sort of see for our other friends around the world to follow along a bit easier. And if for some reason the speakers go out, you can always follow along like this. Without further ado, I'd like to go on ahead and introduce Sean Chan from BlueSeed Holdings. We have started a process with Vincent James, our treasurer from Canada. We get right into the guest speakers. And so this has been very effective. Sean is with BlueSeed Holdings. He's essentially an international financier, an investment banker working with, family offices and many times the top 2% of the world. He also has interests in helping startups. Later this month, we're going to hear from him again. coming up in the second half of this month with an early stage cancer breakthrough company. And these are the types of financing deals and things that you'll often see him as a global financier involved in. Sean's got a rich heritage into royalty, in fact, going all the way back to Singapore and many prominent families, and has told me long histories of how proud he is as a Rotarian. And he is also a Paul Harris Fellow coming to us from British Columbia, much like possibly Jonathan up in New York. This was just a bit more helpful for him to join us. So without further ado, Sean, thank you so much for joining us from BlueSeed Holdings. Big round of applause. Can you hear me,
everyone?
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just want to check. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yeah, we got you. Yep.
Oh, you can. Okay, good. Okay, because I was just wondering. All right, so I created this PowerPoint very quickly. I hope you all don't mind. I think you know most of it. Oh, I am sharing my screen. Huh.
Yes, sir. It looks great. We could see it.
Okay, good. It's just that the Zoom, the Google Meet decided to finally show it properly. Yeah, I'm just gonna see how can I go to full screen mode.
Oh yeah, the old make the screen larger routine. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, that
So
looks
you don't get
nice. That's very nice, sir.
Okay, so just very quickly. So hi everyone. Thank you, Marty, for the intro. My name is Sean Chan. So just a little FYI before the Rotary Club of Global Impact. I used to be a member. Just before I forget, this voice is because I have a slight sore throat. Just to let you know, it's not that coarse usually. Okay. So before the Rotary Club of Global Impact, I used to be a member of the Rotary Club of Downtown Vancouver, BC, Canada. And I joined the Rotary of Global Impact because I was starting to do business with a few fellow members of the group. And also because, ever since COVID, stayed more at home, I think the idea of a digital club makes a bit more sense, if you will. And I became more involved, and I thought, it just makes more sense. All right. Just a little FYI, who am I? I've been working in the family office governance world, if you will, advisory work, mainly in corporate finance and management consulting. I've been a VP of operations, VP of finance, advisor, CFO for a few startups. Well, SMEs, I would say. Be involved in quite a few small to very large projects. In fact, the amount that you see, the majority of that is mainly in real estate and infrastructure. Although I do have a small portfolio of operating companies, SMEs, and what have you. And I studied economics and philosophy at the local University of British Columbia, UBC, as you all might know. And I'm a member of a few groups. That's all you need to know. So the first one is obvious. I'm founder of BlueSeed Holdings. It's a corporate finance advisory business. We help capital raising, CFO hire, M&A advisory, family office, offshore structure, set up. We're principally focusing on companies that have some level of EBITDA, or at least some sort of significant traction, if you will. We do project financing. Project financing is actually a huge part of my business. And then, of course, with operating funds, I do get a request once in a while, but it's mainly project financing that I'm more focused on. So this comes to the topic of this presentation. I thought to do a sort of like a little educational seminar, if you will, rather than trying to, bore you with my background. I'm also a founder of the CSFO. It's a non-profit organization We have close to 100 active executives of single-family offices all around the world. If you look at the map, it's the ones in blue, basically. And we have 1,100 other affiliated single-family offices all around the world. We share investment deals with each other, potential JVs. People have asked about such planning and obviously tax planning issues, if you will. We also share global intelligence. We share due diligence information globally all across the world, which is useful, by the way, especially when talking about international projects. And obviously, I'm in Canada, for example, and let's say if I knew someone in Dubai or Bahrain or Australia or Dominican Republic or Africa, right? It just makes international deals, due diligence a lot easier, right? And of course, sometimes some of these families are quite prominent, and so it does give some weight to some of the projects that I'm engaged in. Let's just put it that way. So just very quickly, I just thought I'd just quickly cover this for fun. Might as well. This is sort of part and parcel of my work. So a lot of people use the word family office. What is a family office? So typically, a family office is a company or group of company, or typically started by one company first, that is owned by an individual and/or family. Typically, it's family owned if it's 2 generations or more, obviously. Some of the Canadian examples would be Shaw Cable, for example, which is primarily owned by one family, one of the biggest telco companies in Canada. And there's many other examples of the Rothschild Bank and what have you. Now, of course, to be considered family office, some people say the academic definition is that a family office should have at least $100 million in liquid assets. Liquid meaning not including real estate, not including other hard assets, just cash, stocks, stuff like that, right? Arguably, of course, some family offices can be as low as $10 million in liquid assets, obviously. But typically, these are very wealthy families with, pre-substantial war chests, if you will, of liquid assets. And of course, typically with a family office, they have a professional team of investment, finance, operations, legal, because not only do they invest, like I said, they also manage their own companies, which means, they need to have that full-on team to manage all the activities of the family offices, from operations of the business to legality to personal lifestyle of the owners of the group of companies, right? A to Z. So I just thought to quickly share this. A lot of people, they come to me and they say, hey, I'd like to raise, $5 million, $20 million, $100 million, whatever, for family offices, right? And it's always interesting because a lot of families don't speak to the primary concerns that they have, right? So the first one is obvious: capital preservation, right? If you're a wealthy family, you probably want to keep, a substantial amount of that capital principal for the next generation. Just saying. And so then it really becomes a risk management strategy, right? How do you, when capital is deployed, how do you implement a risk-adjusted strategy to ensure the preservation of capital, right, and the principal? And that's something which, again, a lot of entrepreneurs don't touch on. Synergy, the business portfolio, again, that's interesting, right? So if a family office, if I had a company that was raising, if I had a company that was in entertainment, for example, right, I wouldn't go to a family office whose history was in telecommunications, because it makes no sense, right? Typically, a family might operate maybe a Hollywood studio. They say 10 Hollywood studios. They may operate 5 other entertainment software companies. They will operate, other maybe 2 to 5 funds that invest in film projects, right? So, whatever they invest into has to obviously fit into their portfolio of companies or funds, because not only does it, is synergistic, but more importantly, the company is able to leverage the resources of the family office's portfolio in order to grow and scale, right? And the easiest is to have a strategic investor effectively. Now, of course, lifestyle requirements is interesting, right? So, when entrepreneurs come to family offices, they forget that some families just want cash flow. They just want that 6% a year. I mean, look, if you have $200 million in assets or $1 billion in assets, let's say $1 billion in assets, right? You earn 5% a year. That's $50 million a year in just like passive income, right? And for most people, I would say most people, that's a pretty nice figure to live by. Some people just want that 5% a year, right? And so when they're doing deals, you really have to orient yourself towards what their requirements are. Are they looking for stable cash flows? Are they looking for the next great IPO? Are they looking at a mix, of the next great IPO, some cash flow, some venture deals, right? But it's really understanding what they're looking for, which sort of goes to my next point, which is personal and family office financial goals, right? What is the goal of the family office on top of, generating that kind of income, right? Are they looking for legacy? If they are, what type of legacy specifically they're looking for? Are they looking for green impact, social impact type legacy? Are they looking for the type of legacy that maybe it's not impact driven, maybe it's more empire building driven, right? Or maybe a mix of a few, which goes on to the next topic, which is also related to goals, which is succession planning, right? So when a family office does invest, they think you would have to also then orient yourself towards how they think, right? They may be looking at investment for the next 20, 40, 60 years, right? Now, to most entrepreneurs, they think, oh, that is so long. Well, I mean, we have Apple, we have Microsoft, these are multi-decade companies, right? Big billion-dollar corporations, right? But not only that, when the next beneficiary of the family office succeeds, the existing patriarch or matriarch, how does its investments play into that succession strategy, succession planning, right? So again, if an entrepreneur can, or founder or business owner or C-level executive can speak to some of these concerns, it really helps to ease the family office's concerns. So this is an interesting scenario. I've seen this work so many times, it's not even funny anymore. It's always interesting because I've always seen founders, C-levels, whatever you pitch to companies like a VC fund, right? And it works sometimes, but it doesn't usually work, all right? Because, family offices are not VC funds. It's personal assets, right? It's, mom, pop, son, daughter, whatever, right? It's their own personal family assets. So really, rather than looking at a family office as a, big investor, typically what I've seen work is that it's always easy to pull a strategic family office in as a client first, because once you put in as a client, they see the value, right? And then of course, once they see the value as a client, you become a business partner, so they can refer clients to you. They can open up geographic regions to you. If it's a Singapore family office, that potentially open you up to Southeast Asia. If it's a Dubai family office, it opens up you to Middle East, right? And then of course, once they see that you've been making money together and for them, then it makes sense for them to invest, because they go, well, you've made me money already. You've demonstrated your value proposition very clearly, right? By working together closely, hand in hand. So it makes sense to invest after that if you need capital, right? And I see this as the easiest pathway to get investment. And it's you always should focus on revenue first before getting an investment. That's always the ideal situation, at least, right? So okay, so this is interesting, right? A lot of companies come to me for helping them with their investment raises, right? Doing some investment banking work for them. And most companies miss 70% or a majority of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 6 points. All right. And it's and they always wonder why they don't get the funding they want. So customers is most generic. Revenue, right? So If it's a software company, how many clients do you have? How many active clients, paying clients? If it's a real estate project, do you have LOIs? Do you have purchase orders? If you're a trading company, again, do you have buyers? Do you have suppliers with, LOIs in place, right? If it's an infrastructure project like an energy plant, do you have power purchasing agreements, PPAs, already in place, right? These are customer base, right? Because the family office wants to know if you have a road, a path towards revenue, or you're already in revenue and there's a pipeline of growth. And then, of course, which speaks then to revenue, right? So where are you at exactly, right? A lot of people talk about how great the company is and how many customers they have, but how much revenue do you have? How profitable are you, right? And growth. So sometimes, the numbers may not seem perfect, but by being able to paint the growth story in a very sublime but concise way, again, it adds so much value. Engagement. So how many customers are engaged in the business, right? Are they on and off, what have you? Churn. So this is a nice icon to showcase this. Churn just means that you have an acquisition customer pipeline, a customer acquisition pipeline that goes into the pail. Most of it goes into the pail, and then you have little holes that show that some customers leave the platform or what have you, right? So really, what is your churn, right? How fast are you growing your paying customers versus the ones that are leaving, right? And then burn, obviously, which is how much cash do you have in your balance sheet? How long can you survive for? And family offices, a little bit similar to VC funds in this sense. They obviously want to see how long you can last and how desperate you are for their money. At the same time, but I think more importantly, as a family office and a fellow business owner, they want to see if you are capable of managing your daily expenses properly, right? So they want to see, that you are managing money well. You're not doing, funny stuff with it, right? Taking $1 million and, go do, whatever, right? Family offices are very focused on that because they are also fellow business owners, right? So they know how to manage money. They want to see that you can, the entrepreneur knows how to manage money too. This is always interesting. I think family offices don't just want to know the problem you're solving. This is what a lot of entrepreneurs fail at. It's a good point to note, obviously, but it's not just about the problem you're solving. Family offices also want to know how you decided to found the company, right? What was the foundation? What's the history of the family of the company? Because again, family offices can have, anywhere from 20 years to 200 years of a history, right? And appreciating the history of a family office, understanding the legacy for the past generations that the family has created, also means being able to explain the past of the company itself that needs funding, right? So how did it come to be founded? Who are the founders? What was the initial intentions of founding the company? Where is it right now? And what is the vision of the future going into the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? Again, if you're speaking to a family office that is looking for legacy investments, they are obviously not going to be interested in companies that are looking for fast, IPO or acquisition and, bye-bye, right? They're looking for companies where founders see the vision for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years, right? Of course, there are the odd, few family offices, if you will, that are interested in that fast turnaround play. But I would say the majority of them tend to be more legacy and empire building rather than short-term, get my first $1 million check and then done, right? Again, a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize this about the difference between VC funds and family offices. VC funds love that fast turnaround, the quick IRR, and quick liquidity, right? Family offices are not like that typically. Of course, like I said, there are a few different ones that think otherwise. So there you are. That's thank you everyone for letting me present. I hope I taught you something interesting, I guess. And if you need any help on any projects or what have you, I'm always reachable on WhatsApp, or you can email me or text me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Sean Chan of British Columbia up in Canada. Any questions for Sean today about family offices or what he does? Dr. Pauline, I know I was recommending that you speak with him.
Yeah, I'd love to. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
Thank you. I don't know how I managed to sort that out, but there you are, I did. I thought that was very interesting, Sean, and I like the bit about it's all about building relationships. That's good.
Basically, sure.
Especially across different cultures. I mean, this is where
Oh, yes.
we need to be more understanding about stepping into somebody else's shoes. Having been born a Brit and lived in Malaysia and now in the US, I know that countries are very different, and we have lots of different countries represented here, different cultures.
Right.
So it's about being aware of each other's heritage and
Right.
honoring.
Right. And it's interesting because, even when I'm working on, projects or what have you, and, working in family offices, you realize that cultures, talking to different family offices, of course, different cultures, obviously is different from one to the other. Engaging in, investment deal flows also very different, the way they approach investment opportunities. But not only that, even when they do business, it's very different too, right? And what I find is, there are a lot of people. There are some clients of mine, for example, whom I've ended up having to handhold them to teach them about the culture first before approaching the family office. And I've seen entrepreneurs that they do some of the silliest body mannerisms, right? That in another culture would be deemed as either insulting or unprofessional, but in another culture may be deemed as okay and normal, right? And so obviously then being able to not only understand that, but to practice and to speak in a way that respects the history, the culture, the body mannerisms, right? All these things do play into the whole relationship management skill, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, Sean, I was going to ask, what's the smallest type of deal? And Feroz, after my question, Feroz has a question.
Yeah.
What's the smallest package? Do you generally run from like 5 million to 200 million? What is your metric?
I would say 90% of my deals are typically between $5 to $80 million. And then you have the odd deal that needs like $800 million of financing, right? $800 to $900 million. I've seen deals that need up to like $1 to $2 billion, which in fact I'm working on right now. So the number I gave you is a bit off, but that's a different story, obviously.
You get your one-offs, Feroz.
Yeah, Sean, I was wondering what the average age of the people in these family offices that you would have a relationship with are. I mean, are they the older original founders of the business? Are they their children and much younger? And if they are younger, is there a difference in their thinking between the older ones and the younger ones in terms of how they want the returns to be? What kind of returns they're looking for and how quickly?
Okay, so I'll answer the first question, which you'll hate. They vary. I've seen people, I would say the majority of people in the family office tend to be older than me. Number one, I'm a young guy, by the way. I'm in my 30s. Most of the people that I deal with are between, I would say, late 40s to about early 60s. Now, I've worked with family offices as old as 5 generations, right? 100 plus years. I'll give you 2 examples, right? So one of the family offices I work with, I would say the name, obviously. It was founded 5 generations ago by the first ever chairman of the Royal Bank of Canada. They were also one of the earliest investors in the Canadian Railway, which is again a huge project because Canada just got its independence, what have you, right? Another family office that I worked with was founded by the first ever minister of the founding of the UAE, right? This goes back many decades. Now, of course, the people are not alive now because it's been 100 years, right? So typically, you'd have either the grand son-in-law or son, if I say that right, managing the family office as a CEO or what have you. And so I think speaking to your other point, it really depends, right? So first generation family offices tend to be, some of them are somewhat risk averse because they spend the past 30, 40, 50 years, accumulating those assets. They have a small portion of, obviously, just like anyone else, for venture investments. But typically, but the nice thing about working in first gens is that, while they're a little bit risk averse, they don't mind some level of risky investments. Now, as the generations go, the professional second and third generations, some of them don't really realize the value of money in some sense. And so they end up being less risk averse. And then what happens is after the third generation, right, once you've passed that teenage years of family office history, right, and you go into the 60 years into it, the families tend to become risk averse again, right? And maybe not risk averse, but I think more well planned out, right? So they would say, okay, out of let's say I have a monthly budget of $30 million, all right, or a monthly budget of $50 million, 50. And, they become more well planned in that. They would say, okay, every month we have, out of the 50, $5 million will go towards risky investments, $10 million goes towards real estate, $15 million goes to infrastructure, and everything else, right? Or of course, it's a bit more complicated than that. But the point is, they become more structured as the family office ages through the generations. Anyway, I'll stop there. So we have 3 questions now, I think.
Yeah. So moving on to thank you. Did that answer your question, Firoz? Pretty good.
Yes. Can I just ask one more?
Oh, please. Yeah.
And this is everything that the family offices do oriented towards investing in projects or businesses that provide a financial return, or do they do anything that is cause specific? For example,
yes,
might they be
yes.
interested in investing in people, like women who want to start businesses?
Right. Okay. So this is very interesting. So okay, the first part of the question, family offices are not like VC funds, and I tell you why. Right. So VC funds need that return within the first 3, 5, 7 years, whatever the term of the fund is, right? They need it because that's their, quote unquote track record, right? Family offices, because they are a family, right? They don't need it in the sense like the VC funds. It'll be nice to have, don't get me wrong, and of course they would like to make money. I mean, everyone wants to make money, right? But they don't have that fixed requirement like the VC funds do. Now, and then to your other question, sorry.
I was just wondering if they invest in people.
Oh yes,
with a long-term view.
Right.
Startups by people who have no experience, for example. Now I'm thinking of, especially women entrepreneurs and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So it depends on the size of the family office, right? From what I've seen is that statistically speaking, the larger the family office, the more oriented they are towards impact, the more oriented they are towards certain political motivations, social motivations. So I have one family office, for example. Doesn't sound very nice to say, but I'll tell you anyway. So they are a fairly active family office in the political realm in Singapore, all right? And they only invest in, for example, within the film industry, they only invest in films that have an Asian main character. And their philosophy is that, they believe that Hollywood is too I don't want to use the word, but I'm sure you probably know what I might be getting at. The point is, all right. So, and this family office, in fact, they are one of the biggest investors. In fact, the top 5 investors in all of Jackie Chan's movies and all of Stephen Chow's movies, right? Their check size is between $10 million to $80 million, $80 right, per film project. And I know the nephew because he's the one who's supposed to take over. The uncle doesn't have any children. There's a different story. Anyway, and women. So women is so this is also interesting because typically what happens is when a next gen family is individuals married, and it could be the daughter, could be the wife, could be what have you, right? And typically, yes, they are also involved in that kind of like women, female, investing, if you will. Also because they have these types of family offices are so huge that they have, I don't want to use the word luxury, but they have enough space to think about, beyond the mere financial. I mean, of course, they will still do their due diligence. Don't get me wrong, right? But given that it's a good company, good management, blah blah, right? Yes, they will look towards other things that is beyond a mere 5% return a year, right? I mean, there's politics, there's women, there's social impact. So there are infrastructure deals that when ROI could only happen in 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? But because they are helping the water crisis in Africa, they will do it. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jonathan Cummings in New York.
Thanks for your presentation, and I really appreciate it. And I also want to say thanks to I see Mark Jarrett's here. Hi Mark. Never met in person, but one of the reasons how I found out about this organization is through Mark. So let me just give him a shout out right now. So thank you. So Sean,
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yep. So Sean, so I saw early on in your presentation you mentioned that one of the main portfolios for investment for the family offices, or rather for your group, was infrastructure. So I'm curious, is there any particular geographical areas that you focus on mainly, or initially in the presentation you showed places that were blue? So I was just curious if there are any geographical areas you focus on for infrastructure and what are the requirements for infrastructure investments. Just curious.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there are. This is okay. So you'll hate my answer. It really depends on the political regime and also the structure of the deal. That's a very bad answer, I know. But let me just elaborate a little bit. All right. So, now typically most family offices don't prefer communist countries, but countries like Vietnam, or if I may say Thailand, which is, well, I mean, it's, anyway, right, it's a different story. Thailand, Vietnam, Brazil, some of these nations that are not per se democratic in the traditional Western sense, like Canada, where I live, right, or the US or Singapore. Well, Singapore is a different story. Anyway, they will look at the political regime, even if it's communist, as long as there's a stable government and there's there's obviously growth opportunity. Obviously, it helps if they are close to a economic superpower, which might aid with the growth of the project or whatever you. That's one. And then I think number two, from a capital structure perspective, typically family offices want to come in if the borrower, if I may say that, use that word, if it's a loan or investee, typically a borrower, has already invested, or has already provided 30% of the capital requirement through their own pockets. Long story short, is basically they just want to see there's skin in the game, right? Number one. And then number two is, they don't want to come to a point where they worry about taking over assets or collateral if, things go down, right? So again, risk management. There must be a proper risk management strategy in place. And then that, a lot of entrepreneurs, they talk about how great and how cool their business is, right? But how do you manage risk?
Yeah, got it.
So
Yeah.
I get it. So they want to see that seed capital, Series A, potentially Series B funding is there, and they don't want to take on unnecessary risk. Okay?
Right, basically.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
And I'd like to shoot over to London, the international membership chairperson, Mark Jarrett, creator of over 250 WhatsApp groups. Mark, what is going on today?
Wow.
You're still muted, Mark. Yep.
Trying to figure out how to mute my wife. Any tips? Anyway, hi everyone. My name's Mark. My question to you, Sean, is the following. My wife, son, and I have got a company called MJ Consultancy Limited. It's a UK limited, and we're equal shareholders. Does that make us a family office? Or what is the definition of a family office?
So it's kind of interesting, right? Most companies start out by themselves, family owned. I think it's one thing to go from a family owned company to a family office, right? So there is a transition period, if you will. It's not clear in stone, if you will. But I think the general rule of thumb that most people would accept is that a family office is something that has, I would say, at least $10 million in AUM in liquid assets. If you have,
we've got a way to go, but thanks to working with you, we can get there.
Yeah,
by helping and serving others. That's the wonderful thing.
That's it, John.
Yeah.
You know what I've seen actually? So I've seen families, what they do is, in order to quote unquote speed up the process, they also engage in a lot of M&A. So, two of my clients, for example, they've accumulated their own monies, if you will. And so what they are doing then is they're buying out other positive cash flow generating companies. Did my video just go off?
Yes, you froze briefly.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah,
so I've seen, as I have two clients, where what they do is they committed a fair amount of cash for themselves, not, tens of millions, obviously. But they've accumulated just enough to provide the equity needed to get a small business loan to acquire other cash flow generating companies. And then, of course, once you acquire those companies, you grow those companies, and then the net income from that companies then becomes part of your war chest, if you will, right? And then that's like an alternative way to grow the family holding company, if you will.
Okay, so once we've got 10 million in the bank and we're ready to invest, we can call ourselves a family office.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, do you know what Warren Buffett said when he was asked what's the best thing about having untold wealth?
I don't recall at this point in time.
he said the ability to turn left and not right when entering into a commercial aircraft, which I quite like. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Working on that one.
Yeah. You fly first class already, Pauline.
Oh yes.
Seat 1A all the way.
I got to tell you, Mark, we were coming back from Chicago, and we got onto a flight, and Rainey had her little pilot hat on with the wings that had been given to her. And I think at the time she was 10, and I mentioned as a joke to one of the captains, he was seated up there in the cockpit. Oh, hey, got another pilot on board in case you guys need a relief or something. And he was like, oh my gosh, no, get her up here. I was like, well, we're trying to get in. I was like moving past, and he's like, in the seat, in the cockpit, in the seat. I was like, no, it's okay, Captain. She's just a kid. No. We
was this pre-9/11, was it?
He got out of the cockpit. It was very awkward, and he insisted that Rainey's sitting there. And then he's like, get the photo, get the special photo. I was like, Oh my gosh. All right, Captain. It's like unbelievable moment, unbelievable photo. So
Did they upgrade you?
they did not. I went back to coach like I normally do. I'm a coach guy. Although I've gone
It's
to
okay.
that class
Yeah.
and had him tell me at the desk, gosh, it's a shame, Mr. Mangello. We're overbooked. We're going to need to put you in first class today. We hope that's not an imposition. I was like, no, it's not. Thank you. So
Yeah, right.
it has happened. With that, I would like to thank Sean. This has been the most questions we have had all year long. Very, very excellent interaction. And we are also over from other people making comments worldwide on StreamYard. This is being broadcast across YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook on 8 channels worldwide. So thank you to Patty, who was not feeling well today in New York, and for the other people making comments. Patty went out to dinner last night and got tremendously sick. So I would like to ask Mark to just talk with us as the global membership chairperson. If he would just talk with us a little bit about what he's seeing. He's already brought in, I believe, 2, if not 3 members. We have 2 more in active.
I just sent you another one, a guy called Michael Whitehouse,
And
whose strapline is a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah. And I invited him, but he said, regrettably, he's on a client call, but he was the former president in Groton, Connecticut. So I think he's going to join us. But go ahead, Mark, please talk with us about membership.
So thank you for the opportunity. I mean, the Rotary Club is a household name, really. I think most people have heard of it. And I am honoured to be now helping you in the onboarding process. And I love the ethos. I love what you're doing. It's a fantastic organisation. I did look it up on my on the internet. I do actually have a local chapter here in Horsham, in West Sussex, where I live in England. So I look forward to going to that. And I look forward to helping raise awareness about all the good work you're doing. And I'm delighted to be finally working with Pauline, who's in my Powerful Women WhatsApp group. And she's all about authentic harmony between men and women, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
We all do a group hug.
Amen to that.
Give yourself a group hug out there, everybody. I did promise today that I was going to have a song for us. If you've not heard of this before, Rotarians, many clubs, when you go there, they will be doing things that we don't do, like ringing bells. They will be singing songs. There's a lot of traditions. And since we're a new club on earth, only having opened up on April 7th, and the majority of us, or at least definitely myself, let's just go on ahead and finger me right now, don't know what we're doing. We're literally guessing and flying by the seat of our pants. So yes. I did want to share the Rotary Songbook here today. And I've got a song picked out for us. So if you don't like singing, please turn your microphone on now. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. So.
Well, I'm familiar with the book.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is from down your way, Mike. That's
right.
Let me scroll up here from Sarasota Bay. The Songbook of Rotary Club of Sarasota Bay. This is on DACDB for those of you that have signed in to DACDB.com, our database management system that we use for the club. And I had picked out an easy one for us. Honestly, didn't want to make anything too hard, and can't promise that I'm any kind of excellent singer. But we have this very famous. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you there. Can everybody see that?
Oh, much better.
Is that better? We have this famous song here in America, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So let me check and see how many microphones are on. Jonathan, your microphone's not on. You're going to have to. Yep. Okay. Agastya in India, Quanta, Brittany in Chicago, Farah in Kuala Lumpur. So the way this goes in the United States is Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some
peanuts and cracker jack.
I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's one, two, three strikes, you're out of the old ball game. All right, we did it. We had a song. I promised you guys we were going to have a song today. They sing these songs, all kinds of songs, when you go in. So we do encourage you, like Mark mentioned, you are a full Rotarian. It doesn't matter if you're in France. We had a member, Katerina. She said she was in Italy on vacation. She sent photos to everybody in the club. They're having a huge Rotary dinner here tonight in Italy. You are a full Rotarian. If they ask you, it is very nice. What is your ID number? I want to look up your ID. Give them your Rotary ID number. They will look you up. They will see you're a full member, and you will be able to attend any event that you want to.
So for 3 years, he was
Okay?
president.
So don't worry about that. And make sure that you get a chance to go to any event anywhere you want, whether it's planting trees on Saturday or a children's event next weekend. You can go anywhere you want. And if you get there and they sing songs, you'll at least have been warned that they sometimes sing songs, okay? Also today, I had promised to mention to everybody that I do condemn in the strongest terms today's and this week's indiscriminate Russian strikes against Ukrainian cities. We have had a number of international presidents and prime ministers making statements. The intentional targeting of civilian populations is a war crime, and Putin obviously, I feel, cannot win his own battles in any contest. So much like all cowards and bullies, he's lashing out now on innocent and unsuspecting children, babies, old folks, and people asleep in their apartments by sending missiles into their homes. It's been quite shocking. And I attributed this to someone who can't win a battle or a fight, decides that this is going to be their coping mechanism. It's been pretty sickening to see. We reiterate our unwavering and steadfast support for Ukraine, its people, and we are horrified by the cowardly missile strikes which hit the center of Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. We call upon all major hedge funds, corporate family offices, banking, and business CEOs to denounce these acts and be known in history by name, saying it's wrong. And yes, many, many companies have come out and said, we are moving out of Russia. We are done with this. And what they're doing is wrong. So I had promised I would make that statement today, and I have done it. It's 12:03. I would like to open up the floor to anybody else before I entertain a motion to close. Mark Jarrett, go ahead.
So, Sean, do you know Arthur Bavelas?
Yeah, I just saw your message and I'm just looking at it right now.
So he heads Family Office Insights in New York City.
Right.
He's really well connected with the family office ecosystem globally. So he would be a useful contact for you. Happy to introduce you to him.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great if you don't mind.
Yeah, and maybe also Mark Sainer. Do you work with 361 firm, Sean? And Prestow? It's about 200 family offices.
The only ones that I know of are like the Family Office Network. There's the Asian Family Office Society, and probably one or two others. I mean, there's so many. Like I've come across the North American Asian Family Office Association too. But there's so many in the world.
Yeah. Anyone else open floor for new business today? Anybody old business? Old business, the only thing I have is that it was voted upon by the board of directors to go on ahead and make that donation for Ukraine, $50 for Ukraine, $50 for Puerto Rico, $50 for Pakistan. We did do that donation. I sent out the information, the letter last night. That was done at the Rotary Foundation website. We also made another donation to Florida, to the district down there that our governor had recommended anybody that wants to donate to Florida, make your donation to the Rotary District down there. And so I did that on behalf of all of our members as well. So we ended up doing 4 donations. The last one for Florida just went out the window as just to help people. I'm not going to get any credit for it. The other 3, we did get credit because we did them at Rotary Foundation for our club. So that was the old business. Can I have a motion to close today's meeting, please?
I'll motion to close the meeting.
I'll motion to close.
Somebody for a second. Mark Jarrett for a second. All in favor of closing, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, vehemently angered, or opposed? The motion passes then. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Don't be surprised to see Sean Chan on again. He's coming on again with the early stage cancer detection. We're going to get a chance to meet those folks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Well, there you go, guys. I'm Marty Mangello. I'm going to sign off from Rotary Club of Global Impact and end our broadcast today. Thank you so much for all the comments, especially our love up there to Patty. We also had another comment that they appreciated the questions from Sean. Sean and Mark. Of course, Mark is a real hoot. We love Mark so much. Mark Jarrett, our global international chairperson. And Patty mentioned any more nominations. I would like to, yes, just echo what Patty is saying. If there are any more nominations, we've been putting this information out to people. Please just contact Patty Frudenberg, our global secretariat. We're accepting nominations for 2 positions. The one, of course, is president in the year of 2024 to 2025. Our president next year, of course, will be Dr. Pauline Crawford, starting July 1st, 2023 into June 30 of 2024. The elections we're getting ready to hold towards the end of this year are actually for 2024 to 2025. We have 2 positions that we vote on. The one is president. The other is, of course, sergeant at arms. Right now, the nominations are Patty Frudenberg for president and Mr. Antoine Thomas for sergeant at arms, but we welcome anyone else that would like to. And Babu, yeah, thank you for jumping in there and joining us. Also, thank you so much to so many people who have jumped in there with us to enjoy this week's show. Like I mentioned, we will be back again. We're coming back again with Sean, and he is busy, of course, but we'll be back presenting the early stage cancer detection company, early stage investment company, and we'll be looking forward to him. Good luck this week to all of our friends still down in the shelters in Kiev, and this special message to us from our friends Faraj Gilyadov and Katarina Shirikova, our Rotarian members who live in Kiev and, of course, are going through this ordeal that they're going through. This was a special thank you message that they had sent us.
Наші партнери, компанія Rotary, відправили чимало гуманітарної допомоги. Тепер справа за нами. Фонд Phoenix Group готує до відправки допомогу туди, де вона потрібна, туди, де на неї чекають. Слава Україні! Героям слава!